How you doing? I'm Andrew Pillow. I'm back with the third video in the AI in the Classroom series. And today we are talking about grading. Grading is one of those things that every teacher I know universally hates doing. But it's probably the biggest part of our job, at least next to actually creating the lessons themselves if you're in a place that doesn't already have that done for you. Now, chances are you probably already use computers to grade a little bit because computers are binary by nature, which means they've always had the ability to determine true, false, or whether or not something is A, B, C, or D. That is not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about using ChatGPT to do higher order thinking and actually answer questions from a prompt or even grade papers. Okay, so let's talk about how that looks. So, again, we always start at our ChatGPT home screen. Okay, this is a new chat. You can always go back to an old chat, but this is a new chat. Now, one of the examples I gave last video when we're in our content creation section was about math. Well, ChatGPT can easily do math. Okay, so I put an algebra problem in here. Solve for X. Now you notice that it didn't actually just solve for X. It actually went through the steps. This is extraordinarily useful if you are a math teacher. I taught math, I taught algebra, and one of the things that took the longest every single day was not finding the problems themselves. It's easy to find the problems, not even finding the answers, but actually working them out to show the steps to the students. Now, if I'm a math teacher and if you're a math teacher, I expect that you know how to do this, right? That's not what's going on here. Although you could use this to teach yourself if you don't. But think of this as a force multiplier because students need to see, hundreds of problems sometimes before they get it through their head how it works. I don't have time to work out hundreds of problems and the steps to hundreds of problems. But I can do that in ChatGPT in just a matter of minutes, okay? So this is a perfect example of how ChatGPT can be used in math. I'm going to go back to one of the word problems that we created, though. Okay, so here's one of the word problems that I created in our last session. Now, there's a bunch of symbols in here, so it might copy and paste funny, but it can read it. I want ChatGPT to solve this word problem. And just like it did with the other problem, it's solving the problem. It's walking through the steps, okay? And it's not just saying, and it's not just going through the steps with numbers. It's actually literally saying the steps out loud. Again, it did this all in about 1 second. This gives you the ability to multiply your thinking across hundreds of problems in the time that it probably would have taken you to do 9 or 10. Okay? So ChatGPT can answer questions, and you can use it to compare answers and grade if need be. Now let's talk about readings. I'm going to create a new chat, and I'm going to create a reading. And the reason I'm going to create a reading in here is because I want you to see that ChatGPT can read a text and then answer the questions from that text. So we were on colonization last time we did some readings on colonies. Let's make one about Plymouth Colony. Create a reading about Plymouth Colony for middle schoolers. Just make sure I spell it right. Oh, the. Then it goes through, gives me a reading about Plymouth Colony. Every now and then, because ChatGPT is in its beta testing, it gives you this which response do you prefer type thing. And that's just to make it better. Okay. You're still actually in the testing phases of what ChatGPT is. I actually like this one better. Okay, so we chose the second one. Now we have a reading. As I told you last time, ChatGPT can create questions. I want create 4 comprehension questions from the above reading. Now it gave me multiple choice questions, okay? It can answer those questions. Answer those questions. Now, you should be reading everything you put in front of your students, right? So you should know these. But again, it did it a lot faster than you probably could have. But let's say create 4 short answer questions from the above reading. Then it gives you 4 short answer questions. And just like it did with the multiple choice questions, it can go back, read what was written up here, and actually answer those questions. And the reason this is useful isn't because you as a teacher aren't going to know these answers, because it gets them way faster than you and it creates exemplar responses. I can't tell you how many times I've just needed an article to put in front of them for that lesson. It's not that I wasn't planned out, but maybe the class is a little bit shorter than I thought, or maybe I'm trying something new, okay, and I need, something on the side. Well, this enables me to get an article, get some questions, and get some answers for those questions immediately, right? And these exemplar responses are often needed for my lesson plan and template that my school makes me turn in. Or if you have sub plans, exemplars really help out your sub as well, because oftentimes they're not going to be experts in the content that you've created. And generally, they don't have time to go through and read all the things that you're putting in front of kids for that day. So creating exemplar responses really helps out. Plus, it gives you a good baseline of what these responses should look like when your students answer, if you didn't have time to do that yourself. Now, one last thing that ChatGPT can do. ChatGPT can actually grade essays. So I'm going to create a new chat here. And when you're thinking about grading an essay, you're usually thinking about having a rubric. So I went out and found a random rubric. And the reason I did this is just to show you that it'll work with your rubric too. This isn't something that I made specially for ChatGPT. I just found it right before this video. This is a live demonstration. Okay, so this is the best way I found to do it. Copy and paste the rubric in there first. And this is just a general rubric about essays that you would find. Okay. And then I'm going to copy and paste an essay in here that a student turned in. And I'm going to say, use the above rubric to grade the following essay. This essay is actually about the giver. The prompt was, how was the society in the giver a dystopian civilization? Dystopian was one of the keywords we were doing in literature at the time. So I'm copying and pasting that essay right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to use the rubric to grade the response. Okay. Introduction left a little bit to be desired. Organization was great, apparently. Development could use some work. Overall, I got a 3. Okay. Now, let's talk about the ethics of this, because some people are going to have an issue with grading an essay using like an automated system. Here's the thing. Your students are going to be doing a lot of essays for a lot of different people. You're not going to grade all of them. This is good practice in making them stick to a rubric because this ChatGPT doesn't have your internal bias that you have for your students. A lot of times when you think about grading, you're like, well, I know what they were trying to say, or I knew where they were going with this. ChatGPT doesn't do that. Like a standardized test grader might not do that. But the other thing is, think about the way you're using this. I don't ever use this as like their main grade for the class. What this allows me to do is grade way more essays than I would ever be able to do. Okay? It's good practice to have them write as much as possible, but I can't grade as much as possible. And if I'm not giving feedback on it, what's the point? Well, with this, I could have 30 students turn in an essay every single day and give them feedback on it every single day because it only took me 30 seconds. Now, all of this presupposes that your students are typing out their essays in a way that you can copy and paste it in there. Otherwise, you're wasting all your time having to type everything in. But everything is turned into me digitally. Not for this reason, although now, because of this, I have even mandated that. But this is a force multiplier. It allows you to give students way more feedback on writing than you ever would have been able to do. And in general, even though ChatGPT does make some mistakes, with this kind of thing, it actually is pretty accurate. It's more accurate with this than it is like some of the history stuff. Occasionally the history stuff is wrong because, there's different sources on the internet that are wrong, or conflicting details or conflicting sources. But when you're just talking about the organization and the body and the introduction of an essay based on a rubric that you put in there, you're controlling all the variables that make it imperfect. Okay, so I found this to be pretty accurate, and my students like it because they're not sitting around waiting on a stack of papers to be graded before they found out what they got on an essay. And here's a cheat code as well. Students are aware of ChatGPT, and I tell students sometimes, hey, put the rubric in your ChatGPT and check it yourself. And I've actually noticed that since they're able to use this themselves to get that immediate feedback, their scores have gone up. The most powerful grading done by ChatGPT in my classroom was done by the students themselves on their own work. Okay, so this has been another episode in the series of AI in the Classroom. Stay tuned for more. See you next time.